second installment of Smooth Move. In the first part, we looked at power summation and how that worked and how that's different from phase summation. In the second part, I'd like to go further and talk about how you can use this in designing a sound system. Let's start by imagining a sound system that everyone would agree is probably not a good idea. Let's put a speaker like at the front of a stage and one 6 feet behind it. In DDT, it would look something like this. Now, you can imagine what this might sound like. Let's take a look at the frequency response. We put a microphone out here and you can see all these notches. So this is the first issue I'd like to address today. Are these notches audible? Well, that's a good question. Those who promote line array technology are counting on you not being able to hear these. So let's try a little experiment. Listen to this track. How'd that sound? Now listen to it again. Now most people would agree that the second one sounds better than the first. The first one had notches in it. It was the result of the track being delayed against itself by around 6 milliseconds. Now, for a lot of people, if you didn't hear the second one, you wouldn't have noticed anything wrong with the first one. That's just a curiosity about how our brains work. But let's listen to it again. So this time, I made the notches move up and down the spectrum. Clearly, the notches become most audible when they move. But let's listen to all three again. Tell which is which? So, back to our original question, are the notches audible? Well, I think they are. I think you would agree that the system would sound better without them. Now, DDT lets you look at it both ways. You can click the smoothing button and make the notches disappear if you don't want to see them. But let's look at the coverage map. Now, of course, with power summation, this coverage map is going to look fine. See, it does. And if we turn on the phase calculation, we'll see that at 1 octave it's not great, but at the high resolution 1/3 octave it looks pretty bad. Let's save that to memory number 1. We can see the same phenomenon but from a different point of view by using the circle of mics. So let's set up a circle of mics and take a look. We can see that the frequency response looks bad everywhere, just like the coverage map predicts. Alright, so let's try to fix the system. Now, I'm sure some of you immediately decided, oh yeah, all we have to do is delay the front speaker back to the rear speaker. So let's see what happens when we use delay to try to fix the system. And DDT will let you do that. If you turn off the circle of mics, watch the response from this one mic, and start adding delay. So, somewhere around 5.12 milliseconds, the response looks pretty good. So, let's take a look at the coverage map. Power summation looks fine, as we would expect. But let's look at the phase calculation, and we discover that not much has changed. Let's save this to memory number 2. So, what can we learn from this? Well, DDT is trying to tell us something that we should already know, that when you try to fix a sound system like this with delay, you can only fix it for one point in space. And if we turn on our circle of mics, we see that overall the response is better, but it's only perfect at this one point in space. So let's take one more step. What would happen if we put the speakers together? Well, Danley loudspeakers are known for their great arrayability, so this should really be your first choice. So we put them together. Now let's take a look at the coverage map. You can see that the power response is still fantastic. But if we look at the third octave phase calculation, that looks pretty good too. And take a look at the frequency response with a circle of mics on. They all look great. Let's save that to memory 3. Now, we can go up here to the memory tab and quickly compare all three. Here's the original system, then with delay added, and finally with the two speakers brought together. Okay, but can a real sound system ever perform this well? Well, it can. Now, in a room, of course, there will be reflections, and the reflections will change the frequency response, we'll add notches. But in reality, because the sound loses some energy to the reflecting surface, the notches won't be as deep and generally aren't quite as audible as those notches which occur from misaligned devices in an array. So, what's our takeaway from this? Well, clearly power summation doesn't tell you the whole truth. And you should beware of programs which won't let you turn it off. The best system design occur when the power summation and the phase summation looks about the same. Now you can't always get there, but DDT can really help. Well, I hope that helps you understand the difference between power summation and phase summation. And so until next time, I'm Doug Jones. See you later. So, here's the first issue I'd like to address today. Are these notches audible? Whew.